morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. Happy Thursday. I am Badass Buddha Lori Monaco, and we are getting ready to hit the weekend, and we're hoping that this weekend is going to be very powerful for you based on the things that we've been discussing this week. This is the week of, it's the month of behaviors and habits, and this week we have been talking about how to break these negative behaviors and negative habits. So today is our part 2. So welcome. We're glad that you're here, and we hope that you are actually involving yourself in this conversation. And look at that, the Powering Princess. I always want to say that, Gail. The Empowering Process podcast, Gail Craft, is on this morning. So good morning, Gail. And look at my beautiful co-host this morning.
Good morning, buenos días, namaste.
You can introduce yourself?
I didn't know you were finished. Absolutely, yes. Do you know it is it's already June 22nd. That's how quick the time has gone. And that's why that quote, I don't know, they credit it to Buddha, but when it says the biggest mistake humans make is believing we have time. And there is no time like the present. I will be getting back to you today, Gail Craft. So, hola, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita, your gladiator guru. And although I am la Margarita, which is a bunch of really beautiful giggling daisies, today I felt like a Margaret, darling. Very Margaret. And I think if we go side to side and step outside of who we are, it's so much fun, right? Where did the imagination go? I'm talking to you from hot as hell, Tampa, Florida. Let's get this on. I hope everybody invites somebody, because these have been helping me, these conversations this month in June with Viva Cafe con Leche. What's in your taza?
And we got to give kudos to Gail, because Gail's coming in on 2. She's coming in on her YouTube channel, and she's coming in on her Facebook page. So we appreciate that, Gail. So don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe. So let everybody know that you're here. Good morning, Alicia Marulanda.
Hola, Moon Baby. Yes, don't forget to share, comment, and remind me I'm beautiful. Let's just do that all the time. With your red lipstick. Remember, I grew up with an Italian mom, so red nail polish and red lipstick was always da putana. And so it took me years and years to finally put it on, and then I'm still not used to it.
I don't like red lipstick on me sometimes, and it depends on the hue of red. If the red has a lot of orange base, it makes my teeth look yellow. And then, but if it's a whatever the other base would be,
a blue base is good for us.
And then what is it?
There's red with blue base in it.
Yeah, I think that would work. Yeah, I think that would work.
Because it goes in like a darker, it looks more velvety red, not like an imitation on Canal Street. So it's that's how it is. Of course, we're all gorgeous. But there's people that be like, oh, they said it was pretty. I want to say, stop, tell me more. Tell me, dime que soy bella bonita. So,
good morning, my beautiful sister is on, Leanne.
Yes.
So again, like, share, follow, subscribe. We would love to see. When I was clicking on so that I could view it on my phone, so we can keep track of who's coming on without comments to the Facebook page. It's interesting. We've been doing this now. We're in our 4th season. But technically we've been doing it over 3 years, and our Facebook page is still at like less than 1,000 people. We've never been about the numbers. So it's not like we make a big deal of this, but it's interesting because we feel like we have something really great here, and we have always something, good stuff to share. And we want people to be involved. That's the beauty of it too, is it's not just about what we're putting out there and what we're talking about. It's what the tribe is also contributing. It's the information that you're sharing to help everybody. So the more the merrier. We would love to see more people, because more people just means more insight and more connections, and especially being around people that have that like mind, that are looking to one up themselves and create a stronger mindset and live a mindful life. I mean, the more you're around these people, the better it is. So good morning, Jesse Melendez. All right.
I must be. It's true. Hey,
And
Mickey.
the Bigster.
Just
Brian.
not to cut you off, but that's absolutely positive. And it has the badass Buddha and I spoke about environment, and maybe I didn't make myself clear, but when we were younger, what is it? The quote, the phrase, the sabiduría, the wisdom that my grandmother used to share with us, and then you hear it in the old salsa singer songs. And it would say, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Dime, dime con quién anda y te diré quién tú eres. Like, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are." And that when you're young, you never grasp it, and now you look, well, maybe 20 years ago, I look back and I was like, what an epiphany. It's like, it's true. Then you read all these books, like, if you want to be abundantly rich, then you hang out with people who are richer than you, or who are where you want to be. And and it's all true. If you're healing from sorrow and grief, do not sit with a bunch of mourners. What is that going to do for you? Tiffany, Brian, good morning. That's it. I'm done.
Oh, okay.
For a moment.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, because after we finished our conversation, with all of you on Tuesday, we usually hang and talk for a little bit afterwards. We talk about how the show went, what we want to work on for the next show. And with that, there were so many things. I mean, honestly, we could probably have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. We could just keep doing this for the rest of the month. It's not like we're going to stop the conversation, because next week we actually move into you can do it and what's next. So we're going to keep that conversation going, obviously, about breaking these habits and changing these behaviors. But when we had discussed, there were so many things that we had talked in the midst of on Tuesday's conversation that we're like, oh my God, we got to remember to talk about this, and we got to remember to talk about this and explain this further. So we have to say, like, we know when what we were talking about hit. Like, we know when it hit for us and when we feel like it hit for all of you. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe it didn't hit for you, but we felt so confident about Tuesday's show, about the information that was shared, not just what we were sharing, but also the comments that were coming in, that we really encourage you to sit back, if you haven't done so already, this weekend and re-listen to Tuesday's show and today's show. Yes. Because this information is really, really good, because we're at a point in our world where big change needs to happen. And where change starts. Change starts with us. We can't, we look at the world and say, oh, I don't like what's going on. I don't think this is right anymore, blah, blah, blah. But then we do nothing about it, because we say, oh, it's just too much. It's too overwhelming. There's too much to change. But you can't look at that bigger picture. You have to look at it and say, how am I contributing to this? Like I personally, this is my thing. I am worried about the future with regards to the environment. I have been for years, and I lost it for a little while, but then I came back to it. Now, I had to change behaviors. So I make sure that I do certain things that is my contribution to a better environment, recycling, composting, making less trash, buying less things, reusing, recycling. And I put that effort in, which means I had to change a lot of behaviors and habits. So again, we talked about this, that in order for you to change behaviors and habits, the negative ones, the ones that no longer serve you, you have to give yourself a reason. You have to understand your why. And then you go back to that what is it that I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And what do I need to do to change it? So we're going to talk more about that today. But that's what you have to look at that and say, this is really important to me. For some people, the environment's not important to them, but it's not my job to convince them. It's my job to do it, be around people that also do it. And then hopefully it will rub off when somebody says, hey, How come you do that? Oh, I'm so happy you asked. Let me tell you why.
I think the whys, the hows, the cans, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I think it's exactly what the badass Buddha just said. It has to be from you. It has to come from you. It has to grow from you. That want, that desire, that magically orgasmic feeling within of breaking through the change and wanting change, all of that. Oh, it's only you. It's just like they say, there's no one like you. There will be never no one like you. There could never be anyone like you. It's just you. So every time we make the decision to make a change, we are already putting ripples in the pond because we're standing up. Because the badass Buddha and I and Iritza and Desiree and Tiffany and all of us on, that's all the names I can see right now. We can all band together to make change and it'll be beautiful, but there's only one of me, one of her, and one of you. So every time we say, no mas, let's do this, and we stand up, there's a ripple effect. So that's it. Everything begins and ends with us.
Tiffany, I'm sorry I spelled your last name wrong when I was typing it in, so I apologize for that. And Desiree is on. Good morning, Iritza. All right. So let's set our intention. Let's do our mantra, and then let's get busy on this conversation today. So here we go. And again, please, those of you that are coming on, let people know you're here. Let people know that you're listening to us today. Maybe they can get information out of it. And when we're done with the broadcast, share it on your repost it on your Facebook page, or take that YouTube link and copy that link and then send it out to people and say, hey, listen, these 2 shows were great this week. I would love for you to hear, and we would love for you to do that. Thanks, Gail. We appreciate that.
Yeah, you always do, Gail.
Yeah. And so does Iritza. Iritza's like we said.
Iritza is the let's gather and bring queen.
She's the welcome wagon.
Yes.
Right. Set our intention for today. Set your intention and be intentional today. Give your day purpose. Decide what's important for you today and set that as your intention. And then if you create that and it happens, then create a new intention. Or if your idea changes, you can always reset. The beauty is that you go with purpose. That's what intention is.
And gratitude. Do it all in gratitude. I was in Home Depot yesterday, and I'm listening to 2 employees speak, an older man and a younger college girl. And they were talking about changing the world and being that one that if God shines his light on you. He was more like religious. And I'm walking away, and then he says something. He goes, you got to find grace. And I said, well, when you feed your spirit kindness and gratitude, you always step into grace. And then I just said goodbye and I left. And you know what? Gratitude just opens up so many doors for us. Just no matter what mood you're in that moment, be grateful that you are alive to feel what you're feeling and know that it will pass.
Yes. Yep. I agree. Natasha, good morning.
Natasha sent me this beautiful fruit basket yesterday, and I was just very happy with my fruit basket. I needed that. Thank you, Natasha.
Rose, I love getting like fruit baskets. Flowers I like, but I'm not. I mean, I love flowers, but I like plants, so I don't like dead stuff. So like that's gonna die.
I love flowers on their
fruit
branches.
Baskets.
Yes.
So like you're like, oh my God, and you just keep eating them.
Just out of the blue, me and Stephanie got one, and I was like, oh my God. And the way it was just wonderful. The strawberries is exactly what I needed as a sweet stuff. So right on, sis.
Nice.
This too shall pass. Absolutely. And if we remember that, if you start off with, I am trusting the process, and end it with, because this too shall pass, then guess what? That in between stuff is that journey you have to go through. You have to fall. You have to get a scraped knee. You have to hurt that elbow. You have to get up and say, I still got to keep going. And that's how you do it. I'm trusting the process. And then at the end, when you get there, when you arrive to that point in your life and you're all bruised up and scraped up, you might be bleeding a little, you want to pull your hair out, but you say, even in a whisper, this too shall pass. And that's like that boost of energy that's going to say, okay, what's the next step? So yes, that's very important. Thank you for hearing that and everything I said, Gail Craft.
All right. Here we go with the mantra so we can get going here. Well, we've already started. So
yeah, I was going to say get going. This is part of it.
Yeah, yes. Sorry about that. Okay. Say it loud and say it proud. Here we go. I am a disruptor.
I'm definitely a disruptor. Watch out now.
I am unapologetically courageous.
Unapologetically courageous and brave.
I am spiritually grounded.
I'm spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I keep it real.
All day, no doubt.
You know, that I really, really love that mantra that we do. And you know, the one piece that really, it all connects with me. Like it all definitely describes me, especially the me now. But the thing that I have to really embrace, especially for the person that I used to be, like to really establish that I'm no longer that person, is that unapologetically courageous piece. Like when I hear that, you know how many times I've apologized for things that I didn't even do, or felt guilty about saying something that might have hurt somebody, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know, it never was a problem for somebody to hurt me. It was never a problem for somebody to say something to me or do something that hurt me, and because they wanted to do it, or maybe it was something that I needed to hear, you know. And I started to think about it. I'm like, God, if I knew that I didn't need to own anybody else's feelings, I'm not saying like to be a jerk, you know, like to just say something, just blurt it out like you have, like Spock would, you know, like with no emotion, no empathy whatsoever. I mean, where knowing mindfully when to speak, when to not, like knowing when things need to be said, but being true to yourself and not lying to yourself. I think that was the biggest piece for me. And that's gotten me to a place where I have been able to break bad behaviors and bad habits. And it's still a work in progress. Like everything that I do, I always check in with myself. Is that exactly what I meant? Is that what I meant to say? Is that how I did it? And then if it is, I'm like, perfect. Or if something happens and I say something, I'm like, crap, that's not representing me. Why did that happen? Why did I say or do that? And then what do I need to do differently for myself? Not for anybody else, but for myself.
It's absolutely true.
But not for your response. Yes.
And that's why when this mantra was created, that's why the importance of everything said. I am unapologetically courageous. And if you're going to get hurt by what I'm saying, if you're going to be sensitive or whatever, and I'm speaking my truth, I cannot stop speaking my truth, because how you're going to take it, how you're going to read into what I'm saying.
Yes.
So me being unapologetically courageous, like I wrote that, I started using that phrase. Eric was still alive. It was when I was selling my art as greeting cards. And that particular name came to be on an orange butterfly that I painted. And it was a huge painting. And then I put diamonds all in her center, but it was a butterfly. So you saying that, it just, you know, how things always connect. So, and I believe my cousin Marina owns like a whole stack of those cards she ordered, but it was an orange butterfly and with other different shades of orange. But that was the one that I chose to call Unapologetically Courageous. And the thing is that being that means I cannot not be me, because I'm worried about how you're going to take what I'm saying. Yes. Because at the end of the day, you and your emotions are really not my responsibility.
Yes.
My responsibility is to walk in my truth, speak my mind without being hurtful. See, a lot of people think that being rude, unnecessarily hurtful is being courageous. No, that's being a bitch, either way you look at it. But I think that, yeah, a lot of us are muffling ourselves and wondering why we feel like we're evaporating. And it's because we're not owning up to our truth and speaking our truth, because we're too worried about how the badass Buddha is going to take it. And that's assumptions, right? Assumptions and the expectations fuck everything up. So yeah, that's it. That's why I always did it, because I've always been accused of being mean and rude my whole life, because I always walked up and be like, what the hell is that? Or why are you even doing that? Or whatever the case may have been, whatever scenario I was in. But so that's why I've lived my life that way. I've lived it. So people take words like authentic and they use it so much that they actually convince themselves they're authentic when they're not. So that's why I always hated that word. But to be
I
just
agree with
be
you.
yourself. I think if you fall in love with yourself, you're gonna be okay with yourself. And then that's how you're gonna tell what your weaknesses are, or what your downfalls may be, or what you don't like about yourself. And that is how you break habits and change behaviors within. Like, oh shit, I've been doing this for years. I must have seemed so ugly to other people because I couldn't hide my anger, or because if I was hurt, I didn't care who I hurt outside of
Right.
me.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. So all of that starts within. So before we go into this thing, I have two quotes that I touch me really, and they make sense. The first one is, what cannot be said will be wept.
Oh, that's powerful.
What cannot be said will be wept. Exactly. And
I
it's
agree
from
with that one.
Sappho, Sappho. Let me tell you, when I read that, I was going through my Pinterest trying to make it my business. And in my, you know how you save all these pins, that one just popped out. And I was like, how beautiful is that? What cannot be said will be wept. So when you are not walking in your truth, when you're too worried about who's going to get offended, how they're going to read into it, you start lying to yourself that you don't matter because you're so concerned about everybody else. All those feelings you have inside, yeah, they're only going to come out in tears. And then by that time, you're just going to be like a doormat. So who cares? And the next one is, you leave old habits behind by starting out with the thought, I release the need for this in my life.
Say it again.
I release the need for
No, the
this
whole
in
thing.
my life.
So start from the first
Oh,
thing.
you're typing?
No,
If you
no.
leave old habits, you leave old habits behind by starting out with the thought, I release the need for this in my life. And that's Dr. Wayne Dwyer. Always loved him.
Release
I
the
have like
need
his
for
book.
this, and
Now, the reason I put him in that order, and only two, is because if you cannot say what you truly and divinely feel, then it would come into the form of salty tears, right? So if you decide to speak, and if all you speak is to yourself by saying, I release the need for this in my life, it does me no good, and you can add whatever you want to it, then you're releasing it. Because once you put it into words and you say it out loud and it re-enters your ears, it's lost power already. Okay.
that's actually really powerful. With I release the need for this in my life. And you notice the words, the need, because when we feel we need something, that's where we come from, that lack place and that desperation. And it's not saying, it's funny with personal development, they're always like, oh, we have to be careful what you say. Listen, we need certain things in our life. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying you need something. We need air, we need food, we need water, and if you are very honest with yourself about your needs, but here's the thing, it's about desperation. That's the difference. You could say I need this, but don't allow the desperation behind that word. So when I say I need to be a stronger individual, I'm not there is a desperation because it's a positive for me, but it's I'm not looking at it where I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but what's purposeful to me, like what's honest to me. And that's where you have to sit with yourself and really think about who you are and who you want to be. And it's a work in progress, and you'll get it right, but then sometimes you'll get it wrong, but then you'll have to redirect yourself once you get it wrong. But the whole point is to be aware, so that if it's not going in the direction that you want it to, you make it move into the direction that you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Guru said something when we were talking on Tuesday after the show. She said this, and I wrote it down. And if it's not exact, I apologize. But she said, some people are the lighthouse operator. They can't see because it's dark and they're too busy shining their light for others. And a lot of times behaviors and habits, well, not a lot of times, we know this because you talked about it. Behaviors and habits are formed when we're younger, and they're based on our experiences, and they're based on like how we feel about ourselves. And then we see from those goggles, it's our perception is based on how we've lived our life.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything we see and do is based on all that. And then going forward, any experiences thereafter are always going to be connected to the past experiences. So if you are afraid of heights, the last thing you're going to do is jump out of an airplane or go climb some tower that everybody talked about and says, oh my God, you got to see the view. And you're like, I can't do that. And you miss out on that. And then that one day where you say, you know what, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to climb that tower and check this out. And you get to the top of it, you go, oh my God, this is incredible. And I'm so glad I did this. Or you may say, screw this, I can't take it on. But now see, now you tried it. But I would rather be the one to try it and then decide after than just to say, no, I'm afraid of heights and just write it off. So when we're those individuals, if you have been a people pleaser, if you have been so busy your whole life shining the light on everybody else and barely, if you didn't shine the light on yourself or barely shining the light on yourself, it's time to shine the light on yourself, because there's not going to be too many people that are going to turn around and shine it on for you. There may be some, because there's good people out there. But how about when that light has been shining on you and the light was turned on to you? How many of us went like this? Oh yeah, no. Like I got to get out of it, because you felt uncomfortable. And everything that you've done in your life has followed suit with that. We're trying to tell you that it's time to just not even worry about shining the light on other people. You create the light within you.
Yeah.
Burn so brightly that you will shine your light on other people. It's just that you're creating the light. You're not holding a light, you're creating. So doesn't that sound so much better when you think of it from that perspective?
Well, the way I shared it with you is we all have a purpose in life, and not everybody can go up there and win a Grammy or a Tony or an Emmy. And I think everybody is striving to be the superstar in their own show. When you realize that just merely living in your five senses and owning who your spirit is and walking in your truth and not needing and being dehydrated and starving for outside accolades, then you realize that your purpose in life is what your purpose in life is. Okay, we can't identify everybody's, but some people's sole purpose in life is to be the messenger of the light for others, and they're not really dark within, and they're not like missing out because they're not needy. You see, and so they don't worry about it. And my thing with shining the light, when I was speaking on that, is that too many people are concerned with who's been or who has or who might shine the light on me. Nobody owes you nothing. Right. And when you realize that you have to follow something higher than you, not something across from you. And you said something, but we'll get back to that. So when you find your light, you must collect the firewood. You must keep it burning. It is not my fault that I showed up an hour late to your party and I couldn't go out to the woods to help you collect them and make sure that you had sufficient. That was your job. You invited me to your home. Your home is this.
Right.
And when you, well, yeah, we should be our own superstars, but not everybody can be. If everybody's on that side of the ship, we're drowning. It's sinking. It's going to tip over. Everybody has a purpose. So when you discover who you are, then you discover what your purpose is. And in that purpose, we are more than satisfied because our cup runneth over, because we are who we are. And we have gone to the path that we were born to be on. And sometimes we want more. That envy and jealousy of why do they have it and I don't happens. And then we're yearning for something that was never for us in the first place. So we go through life feeling this emptiness, and no matter how much we're loved, and how much we're needed and how much we create and how much we do this and this and that, we still feel like we need. And it's all needing something from outside of us. So with that, I'm saying, when you want to just leave all the bullshit behind that's been hindering you, take a look in the mirror. Write down what truly makes you smile, what truly makes you giggle, what's your happy place. You know, what is you're watching all these movie stars and singers and everything, and who has what and who doesn't have what and who's getting what, and then you feel, ugh, why was I born into this life of a peasant? You know what? The peasants are always carrying the glory because they know what it is not to have, and they learn how to be grateful for what they do. So I don't know, you know, you said something earlier about what was proper to say or something. Badass, help me out. You said something earlier about in the coaching or something like that. It's not right to say something, but you know, politically correct. Being politically correct. How many people have used that? Well, to be politically correct.
That's why I loved the show Politically Incorrect.
Because it was a crock of shit. Like, people would always say that. And I'm like, who made that up? And it was in this last time that it stood was some college kids. But to be politically correct was to avoid a situation or
to not hurt people. It's not to not upset people.
No, that's bullshit. Being politically
that's what
correct,
it's. I don't disagree with you.
You know that was first used in 1917 for Marxist Lenin. And
all right,
we're getting it was a time to describe, you have to follow my rules, so do not speak outside of what you don't need to speak outside of. And when these college students, probably in Princeton or Harvard, created this, it was like, so they made it seem like, oh, to hurt. People say, oh, that's just to avoid conflict. Avoid what? Avoid speaking the truth. That's what that word is for. It's an umbrella to say, shut your face, because you're not part of this group and we're above you. And what we do is what we do. And that's what it was created. When people started telling me, you need to be politically correct, you need to shut the fuck up. First of all, so I studied it and I went into it, and it came out several times, but 1917 was the first time for the Marxist Lenin stuff. So, you know, it came to be that everybody was brainwashed that being politically correct was to be nice and kind and don't say anything that might hurt, offend, or bring to light the bullshit that people were doing. That's what it really was. It was a cover up for all that. But anyway, mourning the loss of a love is the same thing as breaking a habit that you've been sewn to for many, many years. It is a death. It is a divorce. It is a breakup. It is the loss of your best friend that you've known forever because you've done that habit for so long. You know that behavior was just sewn into the tapestry of you that now you know it's no good for you. It's actually poisoning you. So you have to cut it off. You have to just really cut it off. But it's still going to be a process where you will mourn the loss of that.
Yeah, and that's the problem with humans in general. We are emotionally connected to things, and we get emotionally connected to our habits and our behaviors, even when they're not good for us. So I printed out this article, which was really actually very enlightening, and it leads to other articles, but I'm just going to keep the premise of like what they suggest here. And this one is actually titled The Most Effective Way to Change Your Behavior and Improve Your Life. And one of the number one things that this individual discusses is changing your environment. Changing your environment is the easiest and most powerful way to change your behavior. Now, I'm not going to agree 100% with the easiest. It depends on what type of environmental change you're talking about. If you're talking about a radical environmental change, like quitting your job, moving out of your house, that kind of stuff, that's not always that easy. But so Les Brown used to talk about life isn't easy, but life is simple. Life is simple, but the things that we do in it are not always easy. It's just that we make them harder than they need to be. So if you can do it where you can do a radical environmental change, great. If it just means getting out of your space for a little while, like me, when I get stagnant and I cannot work in my environment anymore at the house, I go somewhere else, So one day when I was putting my chapter together, I couldn't get it together for this last book that I put out. And I went to the coffee shop that Gladiator Guru and I go to all the time in Shelton, Three Bridges. And I whipped it out. Like it just flowed out of me because I needed that little boost. I needed that environmental change. So that's a big one. Okay. But here's what he's talking about with regard to environment. It's not just your place. Okay. So he's talking about changing your environment in this way. He says, those around you affect more of your behavior than you think. Okay. Those around you affect more of your behavior than you think. So it might be your space is wonderful, but the people around you are affecting your behavior. They're causing you to make, you're still making the choices. This is just take accountability for this. But if you are the one that like they're saying to you, hey, just can I get you there's a thing of donuts here. Do you want them? And you're like, no, I'm not eating that stuff anymore. Oh, come on, So it could be the people, all right? Or they could be saying things to you that are, you're letting it get to you and you're making yourself feel bad about yourself. Your environment manipulates your decision-making more than you care to know as well. So listen, it's saying that your environment is interrupting your decision-making, and we don't want to admit to it. That's the thing. Again, it's about knowing your truth. Not lying to yourself. Wait a second. Let's see. The reason.
Well, that's what I say all the time. People, places, and things are not, unless you know who you are, people, places, and things, you cannot be if you're not strong enough to face them. So you must like be in that space. Like oh my God, a donut right now sounds good, but no. Those chips that crunch, it's like, orgasmic to my ears right now. But no. People, places, and then you can't get mad at the people or the places or the things around you when you lack the self-control.
But that's the key. It's like this is a cycle. You're in this environment, you behave a certain way in this environment. So if you have to if you're changing your behavior or your habits, you do have to get out of that environment. You do have to get away from those people because they're just going to give you permission to keep going with those habits and behaviors. Oh, it's too hard. I can't do it because so-and-so's around or because I'm in this house. Those are all excuses. Remember, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. So enough already, and say this is the change is much more important than the comfortable feeling of staying the same.
But the thing is that if people cannot leave, so are they doomed to fail? That's why I believe in teaching that you are responsible for who you are, where you're at, regardless of who you're in front of. It's going to be harder. The road's going to be longer, and there's going to be less sunlight in your life until you're over the hump. But some people cannot leave their situation. So those people, places, and things are going to be their daily. So why not build the strength and be brave enough to battle beautifully in your space? Because you cannot control what's outside of you. You can only guide and change what's within you. So you know what? People, places, and things will fuck you up, especially if you're not strong. So you're going to look for, okay, when I have the opportunity, when I have enough money, when I get my car, when I do this, and those when I's will grow, then I'll leave out of here and away from this environment, and then I will be better. No. Start where the hell you are. Put your big girl panties on. Buckle up, buttercup, and say, I can't leave now. I don't have the money. I don't have a car. I don't have anywhere to go anyway. So this person, this place, and these fucking things are going to be like, those little demons mimicking me and trying to tantalize me, but let's see who's stronger. That's how you build yourself.
That's right.
You can be hungry, But you're like, you saw them dig up their noses and you're starving, and they're like, here's that.
But I'm going to tell you that, like, because I did all my growth before I left my environment. And the thing is, though, you have got to be like determined to grow. You have got to fill your space. If you cannot leave your space, you've got to fill your space with things that will remind you of the person that you want to become. So you have to look at the affirmations. You have to read the books. You have to listen to the podcasts. You have to watch the videos, and you have to constantly hear it.
Who's you? Describe the you you're speaking of.
Yourself.
Yeah, but there's so many that are different. Like, I didn't read the books. I didn't become part of it.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying you find what works for you.
Hola, Milagro. Yes, you have to find what works for you.
But don't limit yourself. Like, just flow in. If affirmations don't work for you, I met a girl one time when I was given a workshop, and at the end she's going, you know, I've been a caregiver for X amount of years. She was like in her, like, maybe late 30s, early 40s. And I've kind of lost myself and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And everything I put out, everything, she's like, well, what do you recommend I do? And I said, well, try this. Well, I did that already. Try this. Well, I did that already. I said, well, try, you know, I start everything I suggested she would knock down. I said, how about affirmations? Oh, affirmations don't work. She left nothing. Like, she left nothing for, you know, instead of saying, you know what, maybe I should try these again. Maybe I'm at a different place. Maybe this will work. Maybe.
She wasn't in that place.
Exactly.
But let me tell you what my affirmations was. I self-isolated, and people are like, oh, you're going to hit depression. You're going to do this. You're depressed. That's why you're self-isolating. And I was like, I'm on my healing boulevard, and it's just a one lane. And let me tell you something. Everybody handles their shit differently, just like the badass Buddha was saying. And if you need an affirmation, if you need something, let me tell you something. Prior to going into my self-isolation, which was beautiful to me. And at first I was like, am I depressed? I was questioning me. And then I had to trust my process, and I had to keep talking to God. And I was like, Jesus, I hope you guided me, because you know me, I'd be going left. And that's how I dealt with myself. But you know what? Whether you're ready or not, it's up to you. My affirmation, which Lori can attest to, was fuck my life. Fuck my life. What am I doing now? Margie, what are you doing? And that's how I submitted. I surrendered to the survival skills I was raised on living.
You know, that's funny. You haven't said that in a really long time.
Yeah. And that is, that was my survival skills, is breaking out of that mode of survival living, you know, growing up with my parents, you know, born and raised the first couple of years of my life in father panic, all of that. You know, you're always on alert. You're always like, what do you mean? I know what you're trying to say. So why don't you just say it? And the person's like, what? But I caught a lot of fake people like that. So you just take them out. But that was my mantra. So that's why I was asking Lori, like, what worked for you? Because not everybody's the same. What we want you to do, damn it, is to reach deep inside of you and figure out what makes you dance.
Yeah.
What makes you laugh.
Like, do it. Like, figure out what's gonna work.
What's that thing that you taste and it sends ripples down your spine? Like, what? Everybody's different. Find your fingerprint. Find the swirls in your fingerprint, because only you own that. And all the people in this world, only you own that fingerprint. Try, paint it. Put paint on it. Put it on a paper, your favorite notebook. And put that fingerprint there, whether it's your thumb, your forefinger, whatever it is. And look at that. And look at the swirls. And look at how you were created so different to be who you are. And follow those lines. And figure it out. And if you don't know, or you don't know where to start, or you're stuck somewhere in the middle and you're almost at the end, but you're getting fatigued, call somebody.
Yeah, that's why the tribe is important.
You don't have to say, oh my God, I'm so stuck, I'm stupid right now, because that's some shit I would say. Oh my God, listen, oh, you're alive? Yeah, I'm alive. Because, you know, there's some people who can't understand when you begin the healing boulevard. So when I would call after a while, oh, you're alive? Now you're calling? Yeah, bitch, this is what I need.
And you don't, that's not a tribe. That's not somebody you need. You don't need somebody to shame you or guilt you for that.
But it wasn't so much a shame. And I welcome that because that's them speaking their truth. You know, that was like, oh, now.
That's because
they were offended. But you know what? I can't be upset that they're expressing what they're feeling because of me. So I was like, all right, so here I am. So this is what we're going to do. So, you know, you have to, if you're stuck, then say something. And you know who to go to. And half the time you go to that bitch that's going to tell you the truth. And that's the one you try to avoid at all costs. You may even talk about her behind her back. You might even decline from going to an event because she's there and you don't want her singing your song to you because you keep it on mute.
Yeah, that's natural. It's natural. We avoid.
Define who your friends are. Define who the fuck you are, and you know who's telling you the truth or not. Because the ones you want to be with are going to tell you only what you want to hear. And how is that benefiting you in your life? It's not. So in order for you to walk with the truth of who you are, God places people around you who are going to call you out on your shit. Stop avoiding them. Because obviously you're here right now because you still can't get to the end on your own. Go ahead, badass.
Okay. So this is interesting, but we're going to flip it to a little bit. So this individual said, sorry to squash the idea of soulmates, but who you date is only 2% about who you want, or I'm sorry, about what you want, and 98% of who is nearby. Now let's flip it a little bit and let's take out the soulmate and dating part, but this just also goes for friends. It is about 2% of it's 2% of what you want and 98% of who is nearby. You meet somebody, you get to talking, and then all of a sudden you have a few things in common and you strike up a connection versus saying, I want to be around these types of people. So you have to consciously put that out there. You have to be very clear on the people that you want to be around and put yourself around those people. And even then you might still have to be discerning because those people might not be exactly what you thought you wanted, but it's on the right track.
Amen. Okay? Amen. Gail says, I've been told, Gail, I know what you believe and I don't want to hear it today. Absolutely. And you know what? You don't be mad at them. I don't get mad at them. I just know that they're not ready for my light to shine on them. Exactly. Because we all carry a light within, because in the I am that we are is the God that is within. So he lights your path for you to also be a light bearer on your journey. Doesn't mean veer off your journey to shine, to bring everybody else to safety. It means always shine your light because you never know who you're going to meet on your journey. But you know what? What she was saying and what Gail had mentioned earlier, if nothing is working, you are not really ready. But how do you know you're not ready or just living in that box of fear? Because breaking habits and changing behaviors is choosing to break an addiction. And with every addiction comes the loss, the grief, the sorrow, as if someone just died, or your husband that you thought you were so in love with decides to say, I don't want to be with you no more, and that's it. And that breakup, or you wake up one morning and you look at your husband and everybody brags about how he's the best thing that ever could have happened, and then you look at him like, I don't want to be here. And you know what? When that pierced my heart, like that's the raw truth. Is not pretty. It's not pretty when we have to make decisions when there's more, 2 or more people involved that will be affected by that decision. But it doesn't mean you stop. And if you've ever read the book, which I've read 3 times, and the movie's okay, but I still watch it, Eat, Love, Pray. When her husband's like, I don't want to go to Aruba with you. And she looks at him and she's like, I don't want to be married anymore. And he was so devastated, and people will be devastated by your decisions to change. Watch that movie. It's just the journey of self is just beautiful. She couldn't have wrote a better book. But, you have to go within. The Badass Buddha and I have been through a roller coaster of emotions, of changes, of decision-making that would affect, might affect, can affect, did affect the ones around us. But to battle beautifully within your bravery of saying, I got to do this for me. And the road opens up for you, but you got to want it. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. All right. So
Why are you laughing?
nothing. You're on a roll today.
Yeah.
All right. The reason you're often so good at I can't even read. The reason you're so good at predicting other people's behavior and so bad at predicting your own is because when forecasting other people's actions, you always take context into consideration. With yourself, you assume you're objective. So we look at other people and we assume that we understand them, but we're very bad at predicting our own self. Like we get them and we predict, and we're not, and we can't predict our own self. Then he goes on to say, we are often lazy creatures of habit. This one's really important. We are often lazy creatures of habit, strongly influenced by the world around us. We don't even use our leisure time to do what we really enjoy. We do what's easiest. And without a prod, we don't do the ethical thing. We do what's convenient. But by the predictability of our reliance on context points to a remarkably effective method for improving one's life. In other words, we always do what's easiest. So if you're breaking a habit, if you're changing a bad habit and behavior, the reason it's so hard is we prefer to do what's easiest, even if we don't want to admit that to ourselves. We're like, no, I'm a strong person. No, I can do this. But in the end, we really would rather do what's easiest because number one, we know it. We're comfortable with it. It's already been ingrained in us. We don't have to think about it. But that's why what Gladiator Guru was saying is everything she said was you're challenging yourself. You are and when you challenge yourself, you're going against your norm. And it is exhausting a little bit. And sometimes in this change, you might finish your day and be like, I'm like wiped out. What did I even do? Like, I don't even know how come I'm so wiped out today. And you have to listen to yourself and say, okay, I need to rest because this was an exhausting day. To go against the grain and do things differently that you don't normally do is mentally and emotionally exhausting. And then to add to it an environment where people are arguing with your change and situations are arguing with your change. You're fighting all of these things, but you're fighting for yourself. You're fighting for yourself. So the suggestion is manipulate your environment so as to make what you should do easy and what you shouldn't do hard. Now, again, we're not like a big fan of shoulding, but sometimes we have to. But listen to what he says. Make what you should do easy. So the changes that you want to make in your life, the new habits that you want to create, the new behaviors, figure out how to make them easy and then make the things that you want to change hard. So I was talking about this with Gladiator Guru on Tuesday. All right, if I'm saying I want to eat healthy, I have to come to terms with and lose weight. I have to come to terms with the things that I know are problematic to me. Okay, This is the simplest way to understand it. Chips, maybe some cupcakes or, whatever, some sweets. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Okay, because if it's in the house, it's easy. I can access it easy. If I'm stressed, I can make a very good excuse and say, well, I need the potato chips today because I'm having a lousy day. I grab the bag and I start eating. Okay. But if I don't buy them, and that means that when I get that craving for the chips or that, donut, I have to actually physically get in my car and go get it. So then my mind starts to say, well, that's not easy. It's not easy to go out and get it. It's not easy I'm going to waste gas. Like this is what happens. So I say to myself, screw it, I'm just not going to go. And then all of a sudden the craving goes. It's the same thing for eating healthy. If I have healthy foods in the house, if I've cut the carrots, peeled them, have all the vegetables cut up so that I can just grab them quickly, I'm opening that fridge going, you know what? I really am not in the mood for the carrot. I'm really in the mood for this thing, but it's not there and I'd have to cook it. So you know what? The carrots are ready. I'll just take it and get some hummus. We do what's easy. So make the thing that you want to change as easy as you can make it. How you do that is entirely up to you. And that's what we were talking about when Gladiator Guru was saying it depends on you.
Yeah.
And you just find it. What's easiest for you to do to get you to do those positive behaviors and habits and make the other way much harder.
Yeah. It's like you said something that was very deep, and it's in the list that we were supposed to talk about on Tuesday.
Okay, yes, because you have that great list.
It's a comfort zone. Everything you have allowed to sit with is breaking away. This is what she was saying. Make what you should do easy. And you feel as though you can't breathe. Because that's what you're used to. So the lack of confidence to show up for ourselves is also like the biggest enemy. That's the guard making sure that door stays locked on yourself. But knowing you can, believing you will, is always in your hands. And I don't mean your hands like this. And I don't mean your hands like this. I mean your hands like this for yourself. Cup your hands. Cup your hands. Offer yourself the life that you want by making the changes that you need. So it's how hard you work to get through it. And everything she was just saying, I'm not going to buy it because when I want it, it's probably late at night anyway, and I'm not going to go to the store at that time. So you have to challenge yourself. And when the badass Buddha said that I'm just not going to have it in the house because I know how that is. How phenomenal is that? That you are challenging yourself by saying, no mas, because I'll eat the whole freaking bag of chips. So why am I going to abuse myself by having something there that is not good for me? So that's what you definitely got to do. What am I doing to promote a healthy me? Because it's easy to provide non-healthy things and have them hanging around people, places, and things. So no más. So what can I do to avoid that issue while still being in the same place that I'm at until I need to be? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Nobody can answer that for you because everybody will look at things differently. Everybody will handle. As the badass Buddha was saying, pick affirmations, pick mantras, pick inspirational stuff to read where mine was fuck my life, what the hell, Margie, what are you doing? Get it together, get it right. I spoke to myself the way I'll speak to you. There was no nurturing, no okay, because when you do that, then I'm like, I become manipulative with myself. Okay, I'm just gonna have this, or I'm just gonna do this, or it'll be quick. So you have to discover who you are to know what's gonna work for you. And sometimes you got to take that leap, jump off the motherfucking mountain and land in the little river or whatever it is down there, the pond. Trust yourself enough to know I'm going to get hurt, battered, and bruised, but I'm going to still get up and walk away from the life that no longer serves me. And if you can't do that for you, we definitely can't do it for you. Because if you cannot make the decision for yourself, no matter what information we give you, it's just going to jump. They're going to be like droplets jumping off. So, what's your decision? What's in your taza? Right? Chanel's on, Catherine, Marie, Petey. Did you read any of Petey's? When you manipulate yourself, your subconscious checks out and stops believing. Exactly. That's why my article on feed your spirit, nurture your ego, love your body, and unfuck your thoughts is so imperative to me that I've been holding on to it. But let me tell you that, yeah, absolutely. When we stop lying to ourselves, we open up. Like the highway went from 2 lanes going south to 5 lanes. And it's up to you to decide how fast, slow, or even in which direction you want to go. So.
And who are we to say that when we're lying to ourselves, who do we say that story is even true? Like, where the hell did it come from?
What?
What I'm saying is that a lot of times we lie to ourselves because we believe something that occurred in our past and then we make it a story. How do we even know that damn story?
We make it a scripture in the Bible.
Oh my God. Enough already. Like, enough already. But here's the thing. You don't have to announce it either. I noticed this with transformation is first you come to terms with maybe the story isn't true. Then you start to challenge that story. Then you start to be vocal about it. And you let people know this isn't, I believe this, or whatever way you say it or announce it. You have to let other people know that you've changed that story. Now, then you get to another place where you're like, I don't have to tell it anymore because I'm living it. I'll give you an example. I know somebody who was told something, when they were younger, and as they got older, they were always told, oh, you're not good at this. You're not good at this. And then that person believed that. And then the person decided to challenge that. And when they started to challenge that, they were very vocal to the people, the perpetrators of them telling that they weren't good at this. They were very vocal about, very passive aggressively, oh, I was told that I was this, but that's not true. And then that's great. That's a transitional point. Then there's a point in your life where you don't have to say that anymore because you don't really care about what anybody else thinks. You're just saying, I'm enjoying this. This is what I do and I'm good at it. And even if you're not that great at it, you're still enjoying it. If you separate, if you forgot yourself or if you didn't allow yourself to do it because of what other people said, when you have a person who keeps reminding crowds, well, I thought I was this, but I can't, because I've been there. I've been this person. That's where you have to see. The key too is to constantly check in with yourself. Just like Gladiator Guru was saying, I was in this isolation. I had to actually ask myself, is this depression? Because other people were saying it, but she didn't care what other people were saying, but she did have to ask herself that. And she said, okay, because that makes her also be discerning about it to say, okay, well, actually, it could very well lead to that. So what can I do for myself that's not going to allow that to happen? Self-isolation is a wonderful tool for healing, but it could also be a very destructive tool if you're not doing it properly. So it's the same thing with repeating it. And if you're finding you constantly have to tell people why you're doing what you're doing, you are still stuck at that level. So you haven't broke that behavior completely. So once you get to that level where you say, I don't need to announce this anymore, I'm just going to do this. That is walking in your truth. That is living your truth.
But walking in your truth is make sure you're not questioning yourself as you go through. I love my isolation. I would suggest it to everybody because you know what? People are like, oh, it's depression. What are you doing? Self-isolation is not good. Self-preservation. I'm not self-isolating. I'm not even self-sabotaging. I'm self-preserving. And you learn a lot. But whether you're self-isolating or you're making changes, you don't have to announce it. A lot of people don't even know what the hell I was doing. They just was wondering where the hell was I. But you know what? I was still making money. I was roasting my coffee, selling my coffee bags. I was painting purses.
Yes.
And selling them. That's how I paid my mortgage during that time.
And you were loving it.
Painting.
You were loving it.
I was creating art on purses and on canvases. And I was doing my coffee and I doing the sage and dancing to the jazz and just really, really into myself to the point where, you know what? No one really created the monster within me. And some things might have been like, what the hell? Resentment towards my mother. My whole adult life came to break free during the self-isolation. And then when I hear people like, I was never told pretty things growing up, and that's why I'm self-destructive. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if that's your story. But growing up, my sisters and I joke was we thought our name was Bitch and our father was Elvis because my mother had Elvis Presley all over the place. I was that no good son of a whore that should have never been born because I had the black heart of my daddy. And guess what? That was to me was, okay, where's this coming from? And I didn't even know how to put it into words, but I look back and I realized and I have writings from that time in my life because Soul Searching for Peace has a lot of pieces I wrote at a young age in it. So it may sound silly to some, but those were what kept me living, breathing, thinking that, you know what? Fuck that. MTV's telling me I'm better than that. Like Pat Benatar, we are strong. You never realize what the messages God has given you in your surrounding areas, in your most darkest moments in life. So while I was being molested, Pat Benatar was telling me on MTV that I was strong. No one can tell me I'm wrong. So you got to look for clues around you because they're not by accident. They didn't just, oh, what a coincidence. No, you pray and they're being answered by a billboard, by somebody's license plate, by you coming on our shows Tuesdays and Thursdays or rewatching them throughout your week. They're messages that maybe you weren't supposed to hear the first time, but when you rewatch it and you reread a book and you look in that mirror, You're going to find the answers, but you got to see. You got to want to seek who the hell you are to make those changes.
Can I say something with regards to what you said when you were talking about like that person saying, well, I grew up and what did you say? Like they said, they never said I was beautiful and or whatever.
Yeah, and that's heartbreaking. It
And
really
so,
is.
but here's what you have to celebrate. Individuals who say that, you're aware of this. That's the
No,
first.
that didn't happen to me.
No, I'm saying for those
Oh.
that are feeling that way, whatever it is, you've become aware of it. Okay. So what you're saying is, well, you don't know. I never got this. I never got that as a child. Okay. Celebrate that you're aware of this.
Yeah.
The next question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep playing that story of, well, I never got this as a child, and this is why I am the way I am today. I never got this. This is why I am the way today. The question we have for you is, are you going to stay that way? Because you're the one who has the power to change.
Because you're already aware of it.
And the power is within your hands. Enough already. Enough of the story. Say, that's it. I am not going to allow the story to play out any longer. If you don't think you're beautiful, I never thought I was. I had a friend that I was always the shadow. In fact, I spent most of my adult life being the shadow of a lot of people. And I guess I was okay with that for a while until I started to want to break out and found that people didn't want me to break out. But then I finally said, I'm the problem, because do I really want to break out? What is that going to mean for me if I don't be the shadow anymore and I'm out in the front? And then I finally got brave enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got brave enough to say, okay, well, I'm going to get out of that shadow and I'm just going to see how that works out. And I'm going to be strong enough to do it. And I like being, and I don't want to be in the shadow anymore. Like, I refuse. And when somebody wants me to be, and maybe they don't even do it on purpose, it's just the environment that's creating that, I don't want to be there anymore. And it's nothing against any of those people. They can be in the spotlight by all means, but I'm not going to allow the shadow anymore on myself. And if it means breaking free from this environment to do that, then I will. But if these individuals require me to stay in the shadow so that they can enjoy their spotlight, that's not going to work for me anymore, because I am not that person. I'm not going to play small. I played small for 45 years of my life, 40 years of my life. I'm not doing it anymore.
No, I think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm done.
No, you wasn't. And
no, I don't remember. So go ahead.
Maron, I'm sorry. But it's true. The shadow, my father always said, don't trust nobody, because even in your darkest moments, your shadow abandons you. So when we become hidden behind something, and then we have the courage and the strength to say, and do exactly what the badass Buddha did, then that's a celebration. Bring out the sparklers, pour that champagne, even if it's just you looking in the mirror, because that's something to celebrate, to come out of something. And so I think, your sister wrote something that's real beautiful about walking and through Italy. And
yes,
I just think that, everybody has a different path to healing. What you have to do is recognize exactly what the badass who's beautiful to everybody. Nobody. You go into a museum and they have like $1 trillion art piece, and you're like, what the fuck is that? I could have did that with a blindfold on. How are they buying that for this much money? But then you see this intricate, very detailed piece of art, and you're in awe because you're like, damn, I am a kindergarten painter, because that's my art, abstract. And so you're like, I call myself an artist. And for that moment, you start doubting your abilities, but then you look up and you say, you know what? I've sold pieces in all my art shows. And then you look up and you're like, that's so beautiful. And then the only thing that remains is the admiration for that person's work, that beauty that they brought out into the world. And we are, every one of us are beautiful in our own right. If you got to toot your horn, toot that bitch and keep walking, but don't do it in vanity. But the thing is that, everybody, Gail wrote, I love my me time. Gail, that's my business. My business name is Cricket's Whisper. Me time. And it's allowing yourself to listen to the whispers of hope so that you can continue to carry on in the purpose that you were born to do. And me time is imperative. It's just like the way we are so tired and that alarm hits. We're like, oh, we jump up, we do whatever we got to do. We race, anything can happen to us, speeding down to get to someone else's job on time. But on the days off, and we're like, we got to walk tomorrow because I'm feeling kind of fatigued. My legs are tired. My back hurts because I'm not moving. And you set the alarm and you think it's okay to hit snooze until you wake up 3 hours later. I'm talking about myself. So what are we saying? That someone else's business, someone else's bank account, someone else's dream is more important than ourselves. And if you don't know where to start in this healing process, if this story hit you like, damn, was she talking about me? Then let's start there. That's it. That's all I have.
All right. So, and we're going to end anyway. So Gail's like, I could be all day long, but she's got to go. And we know a lot of other people do. So thank you for indulging us.
Yes, I love it.
And so listen, next week is, again, it's what, let's see, Tuesday is what can, you can do it. So we're going to be talking about accountability partners and the importance of belief in your tribe, belief in yourself, and then having the support system. And then on Thursday, the last day of the month for Viva Cafe con Leche, what's next? We're going to have a review of beliefs, behaviors, and habits. And we're going to talk about what's next because we're going to be starting a new quarter. And that new quarter is the taking action quarter. So get ready because this is going to be a summer of taking action. All right. Thank you so much. Right?
Yes. And for everybody who wrote something and we didn't get to it because, the message just, I don't know about, so I will apologize to the badass here live if I interrupted you because that's not my intention, but I just kept hearing something and I had to say it and it's not an excuse, it's a reality. But so if I interrupted your flow,
no worries.
But for everybody who wrote, thank you for expressing yourself and hiking in Italy. I can't wait. Okay, let's do this.
All right, everybody. Have an absolutely fabulous weekend. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And from the Gladiator Guru, mi gente, remember, no matter what situation you're in, no matter who you're sitting across, breathe in the beauty and breathe out that bullshit. Namaste.
Right.